Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for a deep dive into everything automotive with some of the top experts in the field. Be in the know with Strategy Mob.
What's up, Strategy Mob crew and all you automotive professionals out there? Welcome to another episode of the Strategy Mob Podcast. My name is Skinny and I am your host of this podcast. I'm the Jason 2.0, a little bit slimmer, a little bit sleeker, hopefully a little bit better, but there's going to be some bugs, so we're going to work it out. Today we have a very special guest who I'm sure a lot of you know. Let's welcome Mr. Bill Harvey. Bill, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for taking some time for all of our listeners today. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. Thank you so much. Or Skinny, as I know you love to be called, which is fantastic. I got to say this much, Mike. That is a huge name to live up to. So kudos to you. Those are some broad shoulders to handle that nickname. Good for you.
Thanks, pal.
Man. It's great to be here on the show. Really, really is fantastic. I hope I'm not interrupting you. You give me some idea of what you want me to say, how you want this to flow. Just let me know.
Absolutely.
Any way I can help.
Yeah, no, we're going to have some fun today. So for all our listeners out there who may not be on LinkedIn very much, tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your automotive history. What do the listeners need to know about you?
Fantastic. The Reader's Digest version is I help individuals reach maximum potential. That's really what I live for. I love to do. I love to work at, but that's a little vague. So the bottom line is I went to car school. I knew early on, all the way back to high school, I wanted to be a car dealer. That was not a thing. My guidance counselor tried to coach me into a corporate job and working for the big organizations and work my way up through the corporate ladder. I was like, no, I want to be a car dealer, which is the retail automobile industry, as we've affectionately come to label it and know it as, and worked my way up through the system on the sales floor, top salesman, as a manager, and then a general manager, and moving the needle in each one of those wonderful opportunities. And then eventually as owner, I had a Chrysler store and thoroughly enjoyed the activity and the experience of it all. And why I don't have it anymore, I know everybody's got to be asking that. It's because Chrysler at the time wouldn't allow me to have two stores. Dealer groups were not a thing. There was, as much as I know, the only dealer group in Canada was the Roundtree Group, and they were literally in other provinces to be able to form. And so I had to sell the interest in my store to buy the next one that I wanted to go to. And in the 11th hour, got the carpet yanked out from under me, and another person came in and bid higher. And I was bitter, Mike, to say the least. So
I can imagine
that led to a training career. And really, it wasn't the step of, okay, now I don't have a store. I had already created these programs within my organization because I didn't like the training that we were getting along the lines of what you and I have bantered back and forth about. My goodness, we train people at Tim Hortons to sell coffee and donuts. We train them for 3 weeks. And then salespeople, if they go to a formal program like mine in the old days, Mike, when we could host it in a conference center 5 days, we trained the lot attendants for 3 days to 3 weeks, depending on how long it takes them to get it. We trained service advisors the same way. And yet as managers and the leaders of the organization, it's kind of like, hey, Mike, do you want to be a manager? You've done a fantastic job selling cars and you really kind of know the ins and outs and how things are going and you've organized yourself so well. Do you want to lead the whole team? And typically anybody offered the opportunity says, yeah. So I know I'm babbling, but the bottom line is I wrote those programs to bring it all together because all the stuff we were getting was old. And more than anything, it was war stories. And I'm talking about Jackie Cooper, and rest his heart, fantastic guy, loved his stage presence. But really, we were there to see the stories, to hear the one about where the buyer had the check in the pocket and he was negotiating with them, and the guy negotiated lower prices. You guys got to hold out. And so I researched as much as I possibly could. So when I didn't get my second store, and now I find myself prematurely, I would say, retired, and I was way too young to do so, and I wasn't going to retire at all. I had friends reach out to me and say, hey, look, can you come in and, while you're looking for something else, just train my guys. And that's really how it all started. So I wound up at Mercedes-Benz as national sales training manager and had an excellent experience there. In putting my resume together, I surveyed their stores and put a proposal together for them. And what I found was it was product training. Product training was really lacking. And it wasn't for a lack of them facilitating product training to their frontline staff. It was how it was done. So mine was hands-on. It wasn't in a hotel room with a great screen behind you and
all the juice.
Yeah, and the laser pointer circling. You see this button here? It was, no, we're going to be out in the field. And I had fantastic feedback. Couple of people that I would say were in their mid to late 50s, early 60s that said, Bill, I've sold Mercedes-Benz my whole entire life. And I have never, ever driven an S-Class. And I was like, well, we're phasing it out. This thing's done. So I did the introduction of the new S-Class, the new CL, reintroduction of the ML, and we had wonderful sales stats. But as the entrepreneur, I was a caged animal in that corporate lifestyle. And I just had to branch out on my own, and we're very equitably left Benz and was really hoping to get them again as a client. Still working on that. That's a number of years ago now. Have had the great fortune to work with Hyundai, Honda, Chrysler as their nationwide trainer, which was, I felt, a fantastic feather in my cap. I absolutely love that, because here was the company that gave me my first opportunity as a DP. And now I'm teaching DPs, managers, and salespeople. And really the reason I took the position, because truth be known, I was still a little bitter, haven't quite forgotten what they allowed the other guy to bid me up on. I realized that the management training would become the future of all training and cultivating a culture within the dealership and the organization. And then, of course, my last stint corporately, and of course, while I have these corporate clients, I do my independent training with dealer groups and even mom and pop stores, all the way down to very rural locations. And
Gotcha.
Now everything online, I'm much more capable of handling others. Was with Ford, and that was teaching their dealer sales managers, both on the parts and service team and the sales team, how to have more equitable relations with their retailers, because we know that at times their relationships can be a little bit strained, and certainly with attrition, as the older guys are retiring, and we're seeing a lot of that, and the newer, younger generation coming along, which is fantastic. It creates so much more energy, enthusiasm. They think differently. We take the sunglasses off. It's grand, but there's the human eraser, right, Mike? Whenever we say but, we're erasing everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
The challenge with that younger, inexperienced manager coming on board is that all their wonderful ideas are not built on wisdom and experience. And so that can frustrate an older generation, someone with a lot of experience. So I was brought in to assuage that anxiety. I was right between the two, the dealer and the factory, and worked out great, had an absolute ball. So I've been at this now for 3 decades, and all of my materials delivered online. I have an 8-week salesperson's program. I've got a 6-week managers performance management series, and post very regularly and actively. And that's how I ran into Jason and you and the rest of the strategy mob, and the energy is spectacular. And I'm babbling. Sorry, Mike. Back to your show.
No, so you gave us a great transition, because a question I'm kind of dying to ask you as a sales trainer, because I'll be quite honest, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with any sales trainers, with the exception of my short-lived career in F&I. But as a salesperson and as a sales manager, forget it, I haven't had much interaction with a trainer. So one of the questions I was dying to ask you was this. So when I was a new car manager specifically, I was very dedicated and insistent on training in the showroom. I was hands-on, like you said, in the showroom, product knowledge, things like that. And then as I became more comfortable, I started training on, maybe different types of techniques, not necessarily sales techniques, but just techniques as far as, maybe utilizing video or things like this. But what I found, and this is definitely not unique to my situation, was that some of the old boys, as they get to be called, the guys that have been in the business, 20 plus years, um, tend to kind
Know it
of,
all.
yeah, they kind of tend to kind of turn away and, do one of these to their buddies, like, hey, you getting a load of this, right? You know, so it becomes very frustrating because for some reason, I don't know, most people are probably the same, but you kind of single out that one person looking at them like, hey, hello, come on over here. Meanwhile, there's two or three other people who want to engage. But how have you kind of strategized, or what's your best practice for when you have, collective training going on, but there's and it's not a generation thing. There's the seasoned salesperson, we're going to say, who is causing maybe not a distraction, but you're just not getting that buy-in, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So what are some tips to help with that? So that way it's inclusive training. It's not the young guys that want to learn and the seasoned guys going, let's hurry up. I've got an appointment.
Great question. Thank you. And you really said something there that resonates. And I would like to just highlight that for a second for the audience. It's not a generational thing.
Yeah.
I know I said the young guys and the old guys, and that's just the reality of it. Every year we get older, and the longer we stay in it and refine our craft and get better at it, probably the more money we make at it. And the more money we make at it, the more we realize we're good at this. So why would I leave it? Right? So there's going to be young and old, because some young are going to identify as, hey, that's a really great industry to be in. It is not a generational thing. Let's get off that bandwagon. There is time to do generation training, unquestionably. We don't all have the same priorities, and priorities change as we go through life. But coming back to, most importantly, your question is, I believe it falls back on the 4 levels of learning. So the silver bullet that I would offer to the audience is that anybody of any age, and this is where I'll bring it all the way around to, it's not a generational thing. It doesn't matter if I've got an 18-year-old in the room, and I'm sure every single trainer in the entire industry, Canada, US, is going to agree with me, or an 80-year-old in the room. When they're unconsciously incompetent at the first level of learning, they're glued to the screen. They'll do anything we tell them to do. If we tell them to jump on their left foot and wiggle their ear and ask the customer why, they'll do it because they don't know any differently. They're absolutely fantastic. They're the best student in the entire world. And then something happens when they hit that second level of learning, when they become consciously incompetent. At the first level of learning, they don't know how good or how bad they're going to be at this. All they know is that they want to do it. At that second level of learning is when they try what we have proposed and it doesn't work, or it's more difficult to do, or the customer does something unusual when we've promised, if you say this, they will do that. And really what happens at that moment in time is a lot like, and I hate to just make one reference to one name because it's going to date our show. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, Skinny. But Tom Brady and how well he did last year with the Super Bowl, nobody in the stands. I mean, I'm really going to date this now, right? We're going to laugh. We've watched this hopefully a few years from now. Imagine the amount of training that he did. Imagine how many times that he recognized his conscious incompetence. And really, I believe that those are the pros in life. Tiger Woods, another one of them. And let's really go back in time. Wayne Gretzky, knowing where the puck is. That saying is so famous. It's iconic. The bottom line is, when we get through that second level of learning to the third level of learning, conscious competence, which I believe a lot of managers are stuck in conscious competence. And stuck is not the right word. That's a great place to be, because you're fluctuating between, I know how bad we are at this and we need to get better, and I know we need to learn this in order to get better. But what I do think happens is we express through, or we experience success in conscious competence, and so we continue doing the same thing over and over again. And now it becomes old hat. And that's where we move into the highest level of learning, being unconsciously competent. In other words, I can do this in my sleep. I don't even need to think about it. It's a conditioned response. Customer says, let me think about it. No problem at all. And we go through the 4 primary questions of how to handle that objection. And the reality is we get stuck at that highest level of learning where, okay, well, if my 4 primary questions don't work, customers are like streetcars. There's always another one coming around the bend. So yeah, but let's get on to the next one. I got to go to lunch. I got to free myself up. My stomach's grumbling. Or, it's getting close to the end of my shift. And we hear that all the time. And the sad part is the unconsciously incompetent wants to be consciously competent or unconsciously competent, the highest level of learning. And they watch those behaviors and those activities. And we eventually all start just circling around those 4 levels of learning. It's when we force ourselves out of that 4th level, stay in the 3rd level, and just stay in that 3rd. Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, Wayne Gretzky, constantly practicing. Back in the day when Michael Schumacher was the driver in F1, and everyone's like, what makes him so good? And a lot of these podcasts and interviews at the time would be, well, because he's such a lowlife, because he's so hard out of the course, because he'll drive you right into the tires. He'll push you right off the course. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. He's just into himself. Really? That's what makes him so good, being an offensive aggressive like that. I think what made him so great, if you read his book, if you follow him and the reporters that did like him and really wanted to show the Michael before he had the skiing accident, was he put in way more time in the track. When Ferrari rented the track, he drove it till it was dark and into the dark. And the guys in the pits like, can we go home? Like, is he going to get off of there? And I don't know whether it wasn't right, or I don't know whether, the car wasn't right. I don't know whether he wasn't sure of the track. I don't know whether he wasn't sure himself. I think what he was aspiring to was the highest level of learning and keeping himself fluctuating between 2 and 3, saying to himself, I'm not good at that particular corner. I got to get good at it. And as a family, we race mountain bikes. And those of you in the audience that know me well, I love talking about it and sharing those details with everybody. And I love when the kids go, I can't get through that corner, Dad. Those 2 corners, just I bind up, I hit the brakes and I go, okay, then we're going to go back to it. And typically it's not so much corners, it's hills. And they go, I hate that part of the course because I hate the hill. Let's go back and we ride it again. We ride it. It's not because we love the pain. It's because we're going to get to the point where we actually enjoy the ride. Forget about no pain, no gain. That's wrong. Forget about shut up legs. Don't talk to me anymore. It's let's practice until we get to the point like, hey, this is actually enjoyable. Yeah, it's hard, but it's kind of a fun hard. And that comes back to my mantra with everything they do. I start all programs off with it. Everything starts with an attitude.
Yes.
And I don't believe we hear that, we know it, we think it's a good idea. Maybe we share it with friends and family. We, as a leader, we talk about it to our audience, but do you really follow? Does everything start with an attitude? Because an attitude of serving fits perfectly well with those 2 levels of learning, conscious incompetence, conscious competence. And this is part and parcel. This is absolutely timely, Skinny. Right now, I believe customer service is flying out the window.
Yeah.
So many retailers think they're doing us a favor when we go in to buy.
Yeah, this curbside delivery is a nightmare.
Yeah. And this time last year, I remember going into some organizations, curbside delivery, and they're like, and I remember the guy go, yeah, I guess I'm not essential to society, but I'm essential to service. I'm like, wow. All I wanted was a box of nails so I could secure the deck so I don't break a leg walking on my own deck. Like, holy cow. Now I'm feeling badly. I came in to do the. Isn't it crazy? Like,
yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. It really is.
And what kind of training turns that around? I don't think any. But if anybody could get the one message that Tom Brady won the Super Bowl because of conscious competence, constantly practicing. And in our business, it's the procedure, right? When you were in the business office, what makes the business manager and office and procedure so successful is the procedure, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think the F&I office is the prime example of that, because almost every single F&I manager is trained, I won't say the exact same, but similar. It's the same thing with any customer all the time. You don't deviate. It doesn't matter if the customer's paying cash, leasing, financing, girl, guy, doesn't matter. It's the same thing every single time, because this is what's proven to work the best. And then you work your laws of averages, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And it's what we don't do on the front line.
Yeah.
Salespeople know, but then the customer gives them a little bit of a hook and just derails their effort a little bit. And I affectionately like to call it as distraction, squirrel, and process out the window. And this is where management training really kicks in, that how much is the manager there to reel the relationship back into the process, or how much is the manager there to close the deal? And that's where I find that some of the conversations that you and I have had before, and Jason included, and the strategy mob in general, is, okay, the customer's not really keen on our current process. What do they not like about it? What are they not enjoying about the whole buying experience? And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So let's carry on. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. You definitely nailed it. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There comes a point when you're so new, you don't know any better. Then you kind of get that taste of success. And we've all been through it in sales that, you go through your first month and you bang out 15 cars and you're a rock star. And then it always goes down from there to a certain point when you kind of hit, I wouldn't say rock bottom, but you're like, uh-oh, I'm not good at this. I had a good first month. It was luck. And then that learning curve picks back up, especially if you have a good manager. They kind of take you, like, okay, so you were good. Sure. That was your excitement. That was your attitude. That was your energy. And then they focus back on training to bring you back up. And that's that mind frame is, okay, I need to learn more, because energy will only get me so far. Attitude will only get me so far. I need to learn some skills to actually do well. And what you said, there's two questions that I was thinking of as you were discussing that. And I really don't know which one to go through first. So I'm going to go down the shorter question, because I think there's something I want to talk about more in depth a little bit later on. So with regards to training your sales team, and like you said, you get at this level where you know what you're doing, you're confident, but you know that we can do better, and you know that you need to learn more to do better. And you get in this mind frame, which is a great mind frame, because now you're striving to do more, but you have that confidence level where you're confident to learn more. And I think that's a big part of it. You can't be scared to learn more because of perhaps failure or, it's difficult, or any number of excuses that people give themselves. So with that in mind, I was reading something recently that said, as many as 60% of consumers were open to the idea of purchasing a vehicle literally solely online. And that to me is a huge stat. And I know that the industry has evolved in the sense that so many people are doing a majority now of their research online. How have you adapted your sales training for automotive staff, that's managers, salespeople, you name it, with the way that consumers now prefer to research and perhaps buy vehicles? So, what's that new thing look like with this information now that we have that's so recent because of what we've been going through for the last year or so?
Great question. Thank you. I think I'm going to underwhelm you, Skinny, and the audience with my answer.
Okay.
What have I done to adapt? Almost nothing. And that's why I say I'm going to underwhelm everybody, because like,
Okay.
that's not what we're looking for here, Bill.
No.
Really
Elaborate.
looking for some good advice. Yeah, exactly. And the reality is, for years, I've been teaching them to salespeople, and
Yep.
everybody, managers included, to follow their manufacturer's website.
Okay.
Know the website inside and out, front to back, every single page, how many pages there are, how to build and price, how to quote payments. In fact, I had a number of dealers, and we're going back like a number of years ago. I don't want to date myself that much. That would say, yeah, no, they don't make payments at their desk. No, they're not going to do that. And a number of dealers that still do it to this day. And I'm not going to criticize the practice. It's entirely up to you. There's merits to both. But when the customer can do it on your OE's website,
Yeah.
and worse, they have that little tiny box that you have to tick off, include fees and taxes.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm a consumer, I'm like, it doesn't matter what price is served up. We know that much. The first thing that every customer is going to object to is price. If for no other reason they've done some negotiation training, or they've had someone to mentor them how to do negotiation, and the first thing that you do when anybody serves up a price is flinch. Like, really? That much? Even if it's really affordable. Because if you don't flinch, and this is part of my master negotiation workshop, if you don't flinch and you serve up to me, this truck's designed and built to sell for $74,995, and you go, that means 75 grand is within the realm of possibility. That's why you have to flinch. And I get that. But when the customer goes to build and price and turns 75 into $1,400 a month, that doesn't include fees and taxes, which really that monthly payment, not including your services in the box, are going to put them around $1,800. And that's the reason why they got to put some money down or consider leasing. The bottom line is, I haven't really done anything differently, but because of the pandemic, and because the guys have so much time at their fingertips, and because dealers can't say, Bill, you're great online. I know you got a lot of online experience teaching at Georgian College and teaching online since 2004, and experience with Blackboard and Top Hat and Kajabi, and I use Kartra. Like, I get it, but you know what? We just really like it when you come in the boardroom. You fire the guys up. It's really great. And you can't get that on Zoom. I'm like, yes, I can.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, teaching with 8 years with Chrysler across the entire country, those guys would come in. I'd have 3 classes a day. It fit more than 50 students at a time, and we were maxed out at 55. And the point is, I'm not doing anything differently, but because the pandemic's forced the average individual working in the workplace to adopt the technology, to learn how to do Zoom. So I always set the room and start all my Zoom courses off with, hey, look, I don't care if you're a Zoomer and an expert, I'm going to take you through. Here's how to do it. If you don't like, or if you're working from home and you don't want someone photobombing you here in the background, here's how you do this background. And I take them through. And that alone might expose some people to be, Bill, that's phenomenal. I had no idea I could do that. I'm like, well, it's right there in advanced settings, the lower right-hand corner, the little pop-up menu, and you can put your own background in. And now when you invite a customer to your Zoom meeting, you've got your brand new whatever, or a picture of the showroom, or pick any one of the templates. So that I've always been an advocate of, and leverage the technology. The pandemic has accelerated. And I believe that my students now are responding considerably better, because they realize, oh, this is a thing.
It's not just a novelty.
It is. And I want to go back to the statement you made earlier, and I couldn't agree with you more. 60% and more of buyers want to buy online. The mistake that we make with that, and this is where the old guys get blamed in the industry for being old, that we flip an entire switch. We go from, okay, everybody wants to come and buy in the showroom, to, oh, now they want to all buy online. I really want to drive home the message that is not the case. A lot of people, in fact, forget about a lot. That's a misstatement. That makes me look silly and foolish. So I want to erase that. The reality is, everybody starts online.
Yes.
Google will share infinite gobs of data that we're all familiar with. ZMOT, the zero moment of truth, being the most famous of all those things, that 80%, I believe 100% of people go to the internet.
Mhm.
Now, 100% of people is a grandiose statement, Skinny, because my father-in-law, now in his 90s, cabinet maker from Austria, magnificent guy, you could give him the most incredible gaming video computer in the entire world, my iMac sitting on the desk here that I edit videos with. He wouldn't thank you for it at all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know he would. Even if I showed him how to turn it on, the buttons on the back, there's only one power button. Press all the other buttons till you hit this one. That's the only one. Great guy. But there's the human eraser again, right? Skinny, I'm going to erase everything I just said. When they were buying their next car, my in-laws, they went to my daughter, who would sit and watch me prepare for product training videos and product training presentations. And they went to her and said, now your dad says we should buy this car. Can you take me on that thingamatite and show me what it looks like? And so there's how I can be so confident saying 100% of people go on the internet.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than, what does it look like? And secondly, how much is it?
Yeah.
So if we assume that everybody goes on the internet, then we can assume that they're going to your manufacturer site, then you should safely be able to assume that when you talk to them, you should follow what's being broadcast on that manufacturer site. Forget about your site, forget about the social media, forget about the armchair warrior reporters. And a lot of that is hearsay and not exactly correct. If you're going to quote anybody, make sure it really is a recognized journalist that has some kind of an editor saying, is this truthful? Like, does the self-driving car really self-drive? Like, let's get someone verifying that. The bottom line is when I'm adapting to the current marketplace, I'm leveraging the tools that we have at our fingertips that mirror the activity of the buyer in order for the buyer to say, well, yeah, I went and saw that. Okay, well, this is what we have for F-150, Ram, Silverado, Tundra, Elantra, and the list goes on. And this is what they sell for. This is what's designed and built to sell for. This is the sale price. This is the selling price. Whatever tactic, and I mean text tactic you want to leverage there, you can. And virtually 60% of people want to do it virtually. I don't think it's 60% perfectly, but I think a lot of them, you could leverage this as your interview process, start the relationship online, walking people through the screens, share your screen or hand them the ball, let them take it over and share the screen as you're watching, making notes. How I've adapted to it has largely been the result of the pandemic. I'd love to take so much credit for, Skinny, I came up with this most incredible program. And I did. I've written a selling virtually program, and it's on my online on-demand system, and I facilitate it live virtually. But really, it's what I've been talking about all the way along. And when they get it, the guys and gals that get it, and it's not hard to get, it just builds such a magnificent relationship. And some people will buy right there online, and you just have to ask for it. And others will be like, well, okay, can I make an appointment and come in? Absolutely. And then if you really take it the next step is how I segue from the manufacturer's build and price to your actual computer inventory, if you have your inventory up online, where you can take something to it and say, okay, yeah, it's great. We love that F-150, that Silverado, that Elantra, that Golf, that Outlander. But the bottom line is I only have this one. And that's where more creativity to your sales process comes into play that I teach and train with the phone. I just made reference to the phone, that I'm filming this for myself, for you as well. And the audience should know that. It's like, oh, okay, so we're not just sitting here in front of one thing. No, because we can leverage this several different ways. And the bottom line is that when you take that phone and you use that tool to your advantage and do a FaceTime with it, walking around the exact car, but not just the phone, because it's shaky and it's horrible. And that's unconscious incompetence. That's conscious incompetence, because me as the viewer, I may get seasick watching you do it.
Yeah.
So again, the adaptation I've made to this virtual world is, guys, let's get on Amazon. You're on Amazon buying everything else anyhow. Let's have a look at a gimbal. And they're not that much money.
No, they're so inexpensive.
Aren't they great? And so many other things you can do with it. And I really am flabbergasted. And I believe that everybody just sits at that conscious incompetence. Well, the technology is just so bewildering, Skinny. I don't know where to start. I don't even want to get started. I'm too old to learn how to do. Like, really? You got it in your hand. If you can answer a call on that thing, and I know you're taking pictures, and I know you're looking at videos that people have sent you, and they're not the videos that we can publish here. So you know how to work that thing. Like, come on, make it better.
Yeah, and like, to touch on what you're saying, kind of going back, I think when you're saying learn that manufacturer's website, through and through, what I find is and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a big disconnect of how consumers actually research online when they're in that research stage. They haven't decided what vehicle they want yet. And as they're researching, they start narrowing things down, and maybe they come up with their top 2, or not likely, but maybe their top 3 cars they actually want to go to a store and look at, because they're not, able to facilitate that purchase online just yet. The disconnect that I find is a customer now knows a lot of information about your product. They show up at your dealership and there's not a catch-up phrase, right? The seamless transition from online research to now in store, here's what the customer's agenda is, but then here's what the dealer's agenda is. They never seem to sync up nicely. And I just think that there's such an area of opportunity there where if that salesperson can be trained to understand what that consumer has already done, what their objective is that day, and just make that nice and simple for a customer, and the only way to do that is by knowing what's available out there online, what that manufacturer's website looks like, what they can do and what they can't do. Because more importantly, what they can't do online is what they should be able to facilitate in store and promote in store. Example, test drive, that's the most obvious one. You can't test drive the car online. So that's a big promotion that we offer in store, is that, yes, you can test drive the car here, but there's other things too that you can't do online, which I think the salesperson needs to really be highlighting to complement that customer's research that they've done on their own. What are your thoughts on that?
Excellent. Absolutely. We've got to take the 8-step sales process, or at least I use 8 steps. There's as many as 12. I've heard of variations of it. And always remember that the 2 presentations that we make, the critical presentations, either the walk around or the demonstration drive, have to be done to get that customer from their logical state of mind. That's when they contact us either virtually or in person. They walk in the showroom and logical state of mind says, how much is it, Skinny? How much can you sell it to me for? What's your best deal? What can you knock off? That's a logical thinking process, because it focuses on one thing, price. And that's what we think we're all most interested in. When I get you out of that logical price, hey, we're at Skinny, we're advertising it for $389 with the normal amount down, and I've got 4 in stock. Which one did you come in to see and drive? Or virtually, Skinny, thanks so much for your inquiry. Are you sitting in front of a computer? Can we do a quick Zoom and I can take you to what I have available? And they go, well, you know what? Really, all I'm after right now, Harv, is how much is it? Like what can I expect to pay? Or what, more importantly, what can I expect to get off? And right now in this pandemic is, do you have one?
Yeah.
Do you just have one?
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm asking. I'm not fussy on color. I just don't want white, black, blue, red, or silver. But I'm not fussy on color. I'll take all the others. Like, we've got gray then. You've just left me with that. The bottom line is, when we take them from that logical state of mind. The 2 presentations, walk around, demonstration, move us to an emotional state of mind. Virtually, as you just intimated seconds ago, we can't do that because the actual test drive does that. Wrong. We can do that. Look at us. We're laughing and carrying on and kibitzing back and forth. And I'm sure someone watching this, some people are going to love it. Some are going to be like, yeah, whatever. Like it's not the warm and fuzzies. Those are the very kinesthetic type of people. Anyone watching this is very visual and auditory, and I get that. And you and I keep moving around, try to give them that kinesthetic feeling. That's the point. Try hard to get to that demonstration and show them automotive journalist reviews. Think about what was the last major purchase you made, Skinny, recently?
I bought a car.
Fantastic. How much time did it take you to research it out? Like really think back to the very beginning, first day. It's time for us to consider buying a car.
Okay, so for that, I'm going to have to elaborate a little bit. I've always had a company car because I've been in the retail world as a manager for 10 years. Stepping out of that into my new role, I realized I'm going to have to buy a vehicle, which was very foreign to me, which is hilarious because I'm in the business. But throughout my retail automotive experience, I'm always a passionate automotive lover, aside from, working in it. I've always enjoyed and been fascinated, really, quite frankly, with Tesla. So I'd been researching and just trying to know what they're about for, I bet you, probably 2 years now. And then when it came time to, okay, now it's time to buy a car, I then seriously started researching that for, I would say, the better part of 3 weeks.
Wow, 3 weeks. Yes. Yeah. And then just imagine how many websites that you went on to make sure that this electric car thing, is it really a good idea?
The amount of video I consumed.
What's that?
The amount of video I consumed. I mean, my wife was just like, "Dude, stop watching!" Like it's the same stuff just being told over again. I'm like, "Yeah, but I might miss something, or they might have a different angle." I can't tell you. I probably watched, I would bet you 100 videos on, that specific model, right?
Zmont, Google will tell us the average consumer, and I'm quoting statistics that are probably really old now because hours make them old. The average consumer visits 80 websites. I'm not talking pages, Skinny. Websites. You imagine how many pages are in those websites. Now, I think it could be the same website 80 times and seeing the same pages.
Sure.
I mean, I did the same thing. I bought a dirt bike recently this past winter, and I watched those beta videos over and over, and the exact model they want. My spouse said the same thing. It's like, is there anything else to watch here on YouTube? Is that all we're gonna watch from now on? It's like, it was riveting. And of course, once you get it, you kind of lose interest in it as a consumer. The really fascinating part is, and I think the challenge that salespeople and the purpose of training and the necessity for training, like being a Tom Brady, a Wayne Gretzky, a Tiger Woods, is that with a consumer, you and I purchasing a Tesla or a Beta motorcycle, it's that one.
Mm-hmm.
As a sales consultant, as you and I both know, on the showroom floor, there's at least close to, for most manufacturers, if not over 100 models with their various configurations of packages and colors and equipment and all the rest of it. And right now we don't have that on the lot, but we will get back to it. So it's really challenging for that sales consultant to narrow it down to that one that the buyer would like to have. And it just comes back to a process that I have in sales training called the buyer process, and transcending 5 steps of thinking, talking, research, which is the online, touch and feel, where you see it in a non-confrontational setting, and then coming in to see the salesperson, or calling us on the phone, or typing in an email. Those are the critical things that, as a career of automotive retail, either salesperson, manager, or owner, do we put ourselves in that buyer's shoes frequently enough and see the websites that they go to and get excited about it And a guy, one of our strategy mob guys, General Motors Jeff, I just think he does an incredible job of
So you know what's so funny? I was literally just pulling up his LinkedIn profile because I was like, this is a guy who literally, he gets a different color of the same Silverado. He's like, look at this new color, right? Like, oh, nail on the head, dude.
And he's not an actor, and he's not a producer,
Yeah.
and he's probably doing it with a tripod because sometimes the phone is stationary. And I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll go this far. When we did the strategy mob get together last year, and General Motors Jeff walked in the room, I went up and introduced myself. I said, Jeff, I'm Bill Harvey. Like, I just love your stuff. I follow your stuff. And he goes, oh my God, you're Bill Harvey. Well, yeah. Well, I was taken back that he was surprised with me. And I said, so how long, Jeff, have you been with Product Plus? Like, I did a lot of work for Product Plus years ago. I've done a lot of work for Ford and for Mercedes. And he goes, I'm from Sault Ste. Marie. I'm like, well, yeah, that doesn't matter. How long you been working for GM? He goes, well, I've been selling for 5 years. I'm like, you're not a product trainer? He goes, no. And I go, oh my God, guy, your videos are good. Like, really that good. Yeah. And you should be enamored with it and proud of it. And I love the fact that he just goes out there and does it. And I've invited him to the virtual classrooms online because I said, Jeff, with your permission, like, your slides are in here and I'm telling them how you're doing it. And that is wonderful. And that is what will move the customer from that logical state of mind. How much is it? Oh my gosh, it's $700 a month. It's $900 a month, to that emotional state. Oh man, I just got to have it. How are we going to afford it? I don't know. I just got to have it. Like, I'm not complete without it. That is what Jeff is doing is, in my opinion, it's nowhere close to professional. We can all agree to that, but it's
on purpose.
Yeah, it's sincere. It's what Martha Stewart used to talk about. Remember eons ago, the movie about her? She wanted to do an infomercial disguised as a commercial, disguised as an infomercial that is a commercial. Like, okay, what? But the reality is, it's so sincere. That's what I love about it so much, that if it was a professional studio that spent millions of dollars courting off the road and a beautiful actor, actress, and I appreciate all that. That's wonderful. But he's right out there. Hey, this is what you're going to get. Yeah. Like, fall in love with it right here. Don't fall in love with the scenery and the lifestyle. Hey, our corporate manufacturers, advertising, that's got to exist and continue on. I'm not discouraging any of that. That paints the picture of what you'll feel like when you get your Tesla. Jeff is showing you, here it is. Like, you really will feel like that. Let me show you. We'll sit in it. We'll walk around it. We'll go over top of it. We'll go underneath it. That's like the demonstration virtually.
And it's funny, now we're blending and blurring the lines between, and this is where I'm making my living right now, is we have consumers now that are really almost, we're not, that's bold. They're doing a lot of research online and forming opinions about a vehicle and making decisions on a vehicle based on what they're seeing online, which is neither here nor there, right? There's a lot of fantastic videos out there that are non-biased, that really just facts are facts, which is like, Jeff has a ton of passion for his vehicles, but he's very certain he will call out a flaw here and there if he sees it. I don't like where that button's placed, or I don't, which is, again, authenticity. But where I found is that you've got these consumers doing all this research and they're forming opinions on what they want to buy. But what's really crucial and what's missing is the where. And then you take someone like Jeff who says, okay, I understand that consumers are going to probably make a decision on narrowing down a vehicle, if not the vehicle, online, but they don't know where to go. I'm going to facilitate both of those in one shot. He's killing two birds with one stone right away. He's going and showing them the new Chevy Trailblazer LTZ in mango orange, and it's right here with General Motors Jeff at my dealership. So a consumer and we know how Google and YouTube and all these other places work. If you're searching for a Chevy Blazer video and you're in Jeff's vicinity, I promise you, he's top of page. So now consumers go, cool, this is cool. And he's authentic, which is a huge, huge thing. It's not overly produced. And now the consumer goes, well, I really like this blazer and Jeff's just down the road from me. I'm in. They're not going, well, I really like this blazer. Now, where should I go? Right? So he's facilitating that walk around, what you would normally do in store, online, where consumers are getting a lot of their research, but now he's directing them to him, which is a very small space that salespeople are playing in right now. And that's where I'm trying to really build out this business, is that let's get that research stage and that where stage at the same level and play in that space, so that way we can direct people to the right store, to the team that's willing to do it, because they're going to facilitate your sale much better in person when they're online already kind of giving you a taste of what they have in store.
Yeah, 100%. You touched on two things that I think are really, really important that the audience gets. Who you buy from is almost as or more important than what you buy.
Yeah.
And I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Skinny, I don't believe anybody wakes up in the morning and goes, I think I'll go down to ABC, Chevrolet, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Volkswagen, Ford, Chrysler, and buy a vehicle. I don't believe anybody wakes up and does that. But when they've done their research and they say, I think we'll drive from Huntsville to Sault Ste. Marie because we know there is a winter green or evergreen Silverado there because Jeff said it's here, it's online, it's in stock. I sent him a message. He said it's here, it's online. And the other thing that we really need the audience to get, Skinny, is that when we do this walk around presentation, that is one of the steps of the 8-step sales process that moves them from a logical state of mind to an emotional state of mind. It doesn't mean that the walk around is gone.
No. And
correct me if I'm wrong, Skinny, we're seeing a ton of that right now because of scarcity and urgency, primary buying actions. People are like, yeah, we don't do the walk around anymore. Like it's pointless. Like we got 3. Well, it's great while we've got 3, but do you think any one of our manufacturing leaders are going to rely on the fact that, we can't build enough product for you guys to have inventory in the ground, so you're always only going to have 1 or 3? Yeah. It's going to change, and it's going to change so fast. It'll be an overnight thing, and we'll have tons of product, and every dealer will be shouting at the sales team like, guys, move it. Like the interest rate clock is ticking here. Like, let's sell some product. And
Bill, the biggest source of pain I have right now in my job is I'm showing up at stores and I'm looking for that star. I'm looking for the person who wants to dive into video and really wants to try to do something with it. So I'm getting volunteers, but that art of a walk around, I mean, gone in the wind, man. I can't tell you. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Michelle Ferguson out of Mini Durham, she was lights out exceptional. She has been there for 14 years. It was a brand new 2022 Mini Cooper Countryman. She came in and we had a blast. The video was fantastic. She knocked this thing out of the park. Like, it took her, it was just her natural thing. That's what she's doing. She's just got someone behind a camera. But the amount of salespeople that I'm talking to now, and I'm saying, okay, the style of video I do is we're going to do a walk around in the car, point out some features, some benefits, and give them kind of this format. And I've actually had salespeople go, what's a walk around?
Yeah,
and
I know.
I'm going, what are you talking about? Right? They're so out of practice. Some people don't know what it is or remember how to do it. But again, I'm going back to my point that if you've got to be able to mirror what people are consuming online. Can you imagine if a customer watched 5, 10, 15 videos about the new Mazda 3, and then they come to the store and they're like, we watched a bunch of videos on the car. We're so excited to see it. Bill, can you show me around the new Mazda 3? And you don't live up to what was been published online. I mean, talk about your credibility, right? Like, it's just like, oh, so good polished videos, high interest in the car, store experience way down here, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like that is such a source of pain for me. So you hit it right on the head. That walk around is not dead, but now you can really utilize that walk around, get good at it, put it on video, get customers, get them in store. I mean, it's huge. It's such a massive area of opportunity.
And it can sit in a swipe file on your desktop so that when someone emails in, can you tell me a little bit more about the Mazda 3? Like, I can do one step better than that. Here's my presentation on it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yes, there are actors from the manufacturer that can do it, and automotive journalists that can do it, and the shade tree journalists who borrowed it from a friend or a dealership, and they want to be social media sensation doing walkarounds. You can get it from them too. But when it comes from you candidly, that's the important part. I remember attending one of Grant Cardone's seminars one time, and love him or hate him, doesn't matter. We're not going to discuss that. But I vividly, he lost some credibility with me when he stood on the stage and he said, "My wife never asked me when I get home at the end of the evening, did you sell value?" You go, "That's so value. Who cares about that?" Well, I think Grant has changed his tune, that selling value is getting them from that logical state of mind to the emotional state of mind, which is doing those two presentations. If one of them happens online before they even get in, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now all you just got to do is touch and feel, put them in the car. If they want to take it for a drive, fantastic. When you were made reference to Michelle and the Mini, was her presentation a data dump, or a presentation of feature benefit, or did she tell stories, Skinny? Did she really paint the picture of what this countryman is going to do for you, for anyone?
It was exactly that. She blurred the lines between all three, where it was engaging. If you were a previous Mini owner, you were like, "Oh, that's what's new. Oh, I do want that." You're right. But if you were new to the brand, she brought back some of the history of the car. She brought back some of the stuff that's new, but gave reference to why it's new, right?
Yes.
And that comes from her experience at the brand and staying there for so long. But that's not to say that can't be achieved by someone who is brand new to a brand, by just taking the time, having the passion for what they do, and learning, right? I mean, as much as consumers are learning online about a car they're just considering to buy, you can do the exact same research as a salesperson and get 10 different versions of one walk around on one car on one trim level, and take piece of what you like, and then go, "Okay, so that's my walk around."
Yeah. 100%. For me, it was traction control when it came out eons ago. And when SUVs were really starting to come on track, and we were building a lot of the smaller SUVs, and I'm talking Equinox, RAV4, CRV, and so on like that, and they had front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive applications. Mm-hmm. And I remember vividly the salespeople saying, "Bill, what's the difference between the two?" I got people coming in. The front-wheel drive is less expensive, but they all want the all-wheel drive. I said, "You realize that the front-wheel drive with traction control will take them 80% of the places all-wheel drive will. What all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive will simply do is, if you're going to get stuck, you'll be that much farther in when the tow truck driver needs to come in and get you out." And they were like, "Really?" Yes. Saab did the study on 80% of the way, because they were just front-wheel drive and they had traction control earlier than anybody did. And that was the point. So today, when you're doing your walk around presentation on an F-150, oh my gosh, the first question you have to ask somebody is, "Do you have a trailer?" You go, how is that relevant? I just thought I'd ask. It's a common question I ask everybody. And I was just wondering, doesn't matter. Let me show you the blue one. And they're like, "Well, why'd you ask if I had a trailer?" Well, because the backup feature is absolutely, unquestionably, anybody who tried, anyone I introduced to it is just enamored with it. A 16-year-old with their G1 can now back up a 30-foot house trailer and put it in a single car driveway with no problem at all. I'm like,
Yeah.
you've got to be kidding me. Show me this backup feature. It may not have even been on the radar. And of course, because of scarcity and urgency right now, or at least scarcity, it's difficult to pick a feature like that. But boy, when you put someone in that, holy cow, it just went from how much is this truck to this is unbelievable. And then of course, video it. It's great.
We're going to transition to a question that I wanted to ask you, because I think we've talked a lot about salespeople and training and learning that craft, right? Now, as a when I first started in sales, I had a week's worth of training with a great trainer. I credit a lot of my early success to that. But then I transitioned from sales into management. And the extent of my training that I got when I transitioned into management was a 30-minute conversation with my general manager. And he said, Michael, there's salespeople out there with buckets and they're filled with responsibilities, duties, and requirements. That's their jobs. Don't be a bucket carrier. Make them do their job. And I remember that distinctly because that was the extent of the sales training I had for my sales management career. So, and you talked about it, when we were starting off the show, where, detailers get training until they're able to do the job sufficiently. The BDC staff, let's talk, they get lots of training, ways to handle phone calls, things to do, things like that. Hopefully salespeople are getting continuous training by management, but ironically, there's not a lot of sales managers that have been trained. So, I mean, my first question is, why do you think that is? But secondly, what should we be doing if you're a manager right now listening to this and you're saying, yeah, like I really haven't had any formal training, I guess. What are some of the types of things that management should be trained on for the automotive space?
Excellent question, Dynamite, and really a Pandora's box. I'm going to refine it down very, very succinctly to time management and personal productivity. That's the very first place I would start with a management team, let alone a manager individual. That the necessity to manage their time as best they possibly can, because quite frankly, Skinny, correct me if I'm wrong, these people are overworked and just not capable of getting everything done that we expect as general managers and dealer principals of them. And then now we're talking about two different levels of management too. So as a sales manager, service manager, parts manager, I would call that entry-level management position. And with all due respect to those that are out there in the audience, that this is their career job, they've actually, without knowingly, become senior management in an entry-level management position. Mm-hmm. And that's probably because of the management style of the individual store. And it's probably a result of the marketplace that they're in. When you move up the ladder to a general management position or general manager overseeing the whole entire entity is where we really find management training breaks down. The significant things of motivation and team building and leadership. And without the time management, personal productivity, those other elements of building our acumen are impossible to achieve because we're so busy working in the business that we just don't get time to work on it. And
what are you talking about busy? We're not busy. We don't run around putting out fires all day, every day till 10 past 10 at night. Oh my gosh.
And then we don't say that we're really proud of the fact I was here till 11 last night and I was in at 7 this morning. And that's just what you do, Skinny, to really make it happen. It's like, yeah, terrific, Bill, but that'll burn out. That'll end. Your candle will eventually fizzle and wear out. If anything, you'll burn all the wax out of it and the wick will be finished. And it's great. You did it for 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, but they get to a point where they go, enough is enough.
Well, it's funny you say that because when I started my most recent venture in the retail side was going from sales manager to F&I, and I needed training. There was no question. I understood the position, but got my training done, etc. And the person who trained me for the in-store processes and everything else, I don't think you could have been more specific. And I'm talking to right down to the fact of this paperwork goes in this order, page by page by page by page. And I loved that because it was repetitious. I could see if I made a mistake in my paperwork very early on, which is hard to do. So it gave me some accountability. And I thought, my gosh, like if it's this specific, he must be so effective and so efficient. And then fast forward to 3 months later, and we've got the same amount of deliveries on the same day, and I'm ripping through paperwork and getting things done effectively, and I've got lots of time to spare. And he's there, like you say, till 10 o'clock at night printing paperwork, and I'm like, but how is that possible when we're doing the exact same thing? But it came down to it was the time management, right? It was just simple things that it just wasn't effective for him. And my gosh, could he ever have been effective with some more time management skills? So yeah, I agree with you. Time management really, and the whole management level is something that is lacking big time because we're all over the place. We can't focus on, I've got to work with my marketing here. I've got a sales going on here, and delegation too. I bet you is part of what you would train on as well, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Huge component of it. How to delegate, what to delegate. Michael Gerber wrote a fantastic book eons ago, and I'm gonna date myself again. And I went through his course and absolutely loved it with the E-Myth. And that is a prime example of what all managers have to learn how to do. The entrepreneur is the dealer principal. And for lack of a better metaphor or example, the entrepreneur is a lumberjack, finds a plot of land with a ton of trees, gets permission to cut them all down, and does just that. He grabs a chainsaw, she grabs a log splitter, and just starts cutting everything. Then they realize, dang, what am I going to do with all this cut wood? And they hire a manager. And the manager comes in and says, are you an idiot? And the entrepreneur says, no, I certainly don't think I'm an idiot. I've secured this wonderful plot of land of wood to be able to make a fortune with. Well, you cut everything. You cut the hardwood, the softwoods, everything. The hardwood's junk. It makes pallets. The softwood makes furniture. That's what we'll make millions of. You've jumblized it and put it all together, and it's crap. Now we got to organize and separate it all apart. And the entrepreneur says, you're just the guy for the job. You do it. You organize it. And the manager does. And the manager goes out and says, and this is what Gerber wrote so eloquently in his book. He said, okay, I got to hire a bunch of technicians. And that's what salespeople are, service advisor, parts counter staff are, detailers are. Those are the people doing the work. And in our modern age, we call that scale. We scale our business so that you don't have to do the work. And that's where time management, personal productivity comes into play so much with delegating the right tasks. How many times have you seen a manager go out and put gas in a car?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's the most expensive gas attendant I've ever seen in my entire life. Is it necessary? Sometimes. So we can't ridicule them, but if it becomes 3 or 4 times a week, that's now not an event anymore. That is becoming a trend. And what we then have is a manager who's also a technician. And they'll never break out of that role. And the entrepreneur will always be frustrated with their managers and their technicians because there isn't a clear definition of what everybody is supposed to do. And that's what you're referring to. If I'm reading between the lines correctly, delegate. How do we manage our time well so that we're not stressed and overworked and we can get home to enjoy the pool, which is the lifestyle that we're all sold, right? This place is great. We're super guys. We have a lot of fun. Sky's the limit in terms of income that you can make. And
you were just at my last interview, I guess. And everyone before that, let's face it, they all sell the same gold, right?
Yes, exactly. Because they want you to do the work, and it's okay. And we need the work, and that's how we get paid. Do work and receive money. That's the trade. But there's the human eraser again, right? Yeah. We need to know specifically and exactly what is expected of us and what priority, because the entrepreneur is all over the map and the manager aligns all those magnificent thoughts and ideas and condenses it into something that the technicians, the workers, can carry out and do. And then we have to go into motivation, and then we can talk about training, and then procedure and policy can be enacted. But until we have those alignments, the manager's role is haphazard and chaotic, and I really feel badly for them. And if anyone in the audience is in that position, my heart goes out to you. I've seen it lots. The good news is you can fix it. The bad news is until you know, you're never going to get peace.
Yeah. I worked for a manager, or sorry, not a manager, a dealer principal, Tyler, in small store setting, not a lot of staff, very, very home family. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just a great store to work for. He was such a great guy to work for. And he told me, he says, you're the most expensive guy in the store. So utilize your time like you are the most expensive person in the store. You know, if your activities are not earning $150 an hour, then you need to delegate that chore to somebody else and give them a reason why, motivate them, make sure it's done, and monitor that. Because, you know, and that's I can't be running around fixing the lot. You know, we don't have a lot guy here. That's what he told me when I first showed up. We don't have a lot guy here. It's like, oh, okay. So I started organizing the lot, and that's when he pulled me aside. He says, you're the most expensive guy here. What are you doing? I said, well, I want it organized. I need it done. He says, so go get the sales team to do that. That's what they're here for. But I'm not from an environment where a sales team would do that, but that was their culture. They understood that was part of their responsibility, right? So that was a big eye opener for me, is that if I'm not earning on that level, if my activities are not bringing in that kind of revenue, then I need to stop what I'm doing and try to do something that's a little bit more towards driving business versus, you know, a mediocre task that there's other people to do that.
And someone in the audience is going to get miffed with you saying that, and me sitting here nodding and smiling and agreeing with you, because they're going to say, what about lead by example?
Oh, there's
yes.
Yeah.
Lead by example, not examples. Mm-hmm. So do it once, Skinny.
Yes.
Go ahead and say, guys, line up the cars this way. Everybody got it? And turn and walk away, because you have to, because you're overworked. There's so many things to do. That's what I believe Tyler was saying. You're the most expensive guy. I don't have a problem with you going in and showing them, hey guys, I'm showing the technicians, I'm not afraid to do the work, but I can't afford to be here and do the work. And
there's like you said, there's a time and place where you're going to step in, because that's what you do. You're not going to go, well, that's somebody else's job. That's a totally different attitude. The attitude is get it done. It needs to get done. If there's nobody to do it, go do it. But you're right. Show them. Don't tell them. Go and show them, because nobody will work harder for you than if they know you're willing to do it yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Example, not examples. Yeah. Don't keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't think a lot of us really get. And quite frankly, when it goes from trend, when it goes from event, to trend, and an event would be an example. Let me show you how to do it. And then of course you keep doing it. Then it when it becomes a trend for a manager, they actually enjoy it. And that's where the time management is so critical, because now they're staying till 10, 11 at night. They're coming in on Saturday or Sunday. They think that they're really doing great by putting in this effort. Yeah. And they really are doing great. And we do need them, in fact, to do that, but it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Then the second part of the training that managers, especially in the retail field, need to do is there's a fine line between management and leadership. And a lot of fantastic dealers love to study leadership, and consequently then want all their people to study leadership and do leadership too. And that's not a good thing. There's a very fine line between those two. There's a hybrid model of leadership management, especially with respect to Gerber's example of entrepreneur, manager, and technician. When we get to those senior management positions, it's knowing what happens as the market changes. And Ken Blanchard wrote that fantastic little book, Who Moved the Cheese, about those two little tiny mice and then the two humans, and how the humans just didn't get it, but the mice were monitoring the cheese is depleting, and then they went out into the maze. And it's exactly what we talked about earlier. Brendan Bouchard speaks eloquently about it, how I can point out, I can tell you exactly, and this was with reference to your 90-day successful salesperson, right? They're amazing for 90 days, and they fall right off on the other side. Mm-hmm. Bouchard will say, I can tell every independent consultant when they were doing well and why they failed. And it's because while you're doing well, you're not selling anymore. And you're just doing the work, exactly what Gerber talks about. And Gerber is as much leadership as he is management. You got to recognize that in order for you to be successful at this, and managers need to recognize that sales individual that is selling 30 cars a month, which is really amazing and fantastic. It's where we want all our people to be. That is the highest level of learning. That next month, how are they going to fill their leads when they've talked to all these other people and delivering those? And that's leadership. Okay, the cheese is moving. Make sure you're moving with it. And you're back out in the maze looking for it. And you're talking to just as many people that you're talking to right now, selling and delivering, so that next month is just as good. And that's the management training that we do. It's almost an awareness as it is training, and the training comes down to actionables and action plans, and obviously the KPIs are a huge portion of that. But the bottom line is time management, personal productivity, knowing what you are to do.
Yeah, and you were saying being a leader, and I think you can't have too many leaders. It doesn't create a learning environment. I think there's a great time to lead, and then there's a great time to follow. We had a really interesting discussion in Clubhouse the other night, and it was, the topic was, monkey see, monkey do management style. And it's like, if you see the manager going out and doing 2-3 videos a day, then you're more than likely to have your sales staff continuing to follow that example. But you can't have a sales meeting with 3 managers and 6 sales staff, and the 3 managers just up there, all trying to speak over each other. That's too many leaders. Let them lead, know when to follow, and kind of create that environment that it promotes learning, but there's some guidance along with it.
That comes down to our meeting leadership management program, whereby you set an agenda and make sure the agenda is approved and that everybody is very familiar with the agenda and we don't deviate from the agenda, and a meeting has a start and an end time, and you can't have that babble endlessly forever that really doesn't accomplish anything, that generally turns negative at some point because people are running out of good things to talk about.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then we leave the meeting demotivated and like, hey, can we get Bill in here to do some motivation and pick the guys up? It's like,
Oh yeah. Everybody's been to that meeting where they hand out $200 in sales spiffs, but people leave all pissed off because it just took a turn for the worse.
Absolutely. 100%. Oh, yeah. It's fantastic because it gives us something to do, right? I don't want to say that it provides an annuity and it provides our lifestyle, but it really, human beings are such an intricate, complicated computer that it's just going to change. And it goes back to who moved the cheese. It's just as they figure out leadership and management, you and I will figure out, you want to do this as well. You want to do this as well. It's like putting the walkaround online. If customers want to, and the very quickly, one thing that I missed there, and I don't want to be all over the map. One thing I think is critical with General Motors, Jeff, and our dialogue that we were talking about, what makes anybody successful selling online will be asking for the sale online right there.
Yeah.
Don't assume that they have to come in the showroom. Please ask them. Just say, hey, look, you don't have to come in. If you live in Huntsville and I've got the green pickup truck and you want it, I'll bring it to you. Do you want it? Are you absolutely sure? And when they say, yeah, I want it, say, okay, do you see any reason why you wouldn't be approved for our 0% or our subvented lease or finance rate? Because just because they say they want it doesn't mean squat. I can say, yeah, I want it all day long, but if I can't buy my mama's love, I ain't going to ever get it. So can you afford it? Can you get approved? Do you see any reason why not? And that's where the classic talk tracks and all those tactics of closing are just as effective online. You can do this in email. Just ask for the sale. How fundamental and old is that, Skinny?
But the best part about that is, Bill, is that when you're asking for the sale in person, it's intimidating, right? Sometimes you fumble with your words, or you start and then you shy away, and there's all these characteristics and flaws that can sometimes come out. But when you're doing it with video, you're not staring at a person in front of you. You can come at it hard with your pitch, because that's what it is. It's a pitch, right? But you can have that. You can have it flawless. I remember when I was doing used car walk-around videos, my pitch was always the exact same thing, because it was just ingrained in my head that these are the points I want to make about buying a car online, free delivery, etc. Hit them, leave it off with that. And you can do that so much simpler than if the customer was in person or on the phone. I'd be like, well, I mean, you could buy it online if you want. I mean, we could probably, it's just you shy away. I don't know why. That's just human nature, I guess, right? So yeah, no, 100%. You've got to have that call to action, because otherwise you're just feeding somebody else's dealership that sale. Really, if they're a little bit closer than you or whatever the case is, hit them up with the product or the pitch, because they're liking your content. If they've stayed around long enough to watch all of the video and your pitch is at the end, you've got them already. You just need to ask for the sale.
100%. Absolutely. And if you're hesitant to ask for the sale, in your heart, they aren't going to buy. So what have you had to lose?
Yeah.
Just ask them. Skinny, you want to go with it? Well, let me think about it. Okay, well then try to overcome the I want to think about it close with your toolbox of tactics.
Yeah.
Don't give up. But if you're hesitant, you probably know. So go and get certainty. If you're not hesitant and you think you're going to go for it, then would you like to own this one? Yeah. You don't have to come in. I can bring it to you. Do you want to come in? How do we go from here?
Yeah, exactly.
And let the customer tell you. The online world, yes, we can sell a whole lot more online. We just need to think online.
Yes.
And it just comes down to communicating. Exactly what we do as great salespeople anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, this leads me into this question that I've been curious to ask you, because trends are everything, especially the automotive world right now. It's changing, I would say, rapidly, just with, the pandemic and people purchasing things that they would have never purchased online before. I think we're bringing in a big group of people that would have a hard time spending $10 online before are now buying all their groceries online, which is hilarious, So with all this being said, like, what do you think are going to be some trends that you foresee that you're going to be training on in the future?
Certainly getting more refined at the online presentation of the walk around and doing it live. I believe that we've got to keep that emotion flowing and get more of it. That may be my own subconscious positive prejudice with walk around training, because I just believe that if you don't build that value, you're not selling squat. And if you don't build that value, you're not doing your job as a salesperson. So walk around presentation is critical. Demonstration, how we get that emotion of what it is like to drive. I believe that as a sales professional, and maybe we can pioneer with this with General Motors Jeff as a guinea pig to do it, doing the demonstration drive for the client virtually. If that were filmed and then emailed to them, or if it was FaceTime and he can maintain a connection, certainly with Wi-Fi capability in all of our vehicles, yes, it is possible, rather than just relying on the phone. Just making sure that we've got that emotion, that we really do move them from that logical state of mind of how much is it? I don't know if I can afford it. I don't know what my credit is like. I don't know what my neighbors will think when I buy this. What are they going to think when I go to work with a brand new vehicle? Is now a good time to buy a new vehicle if I'm the owner of my company and I show up in a new Cadillac, Mercedes, BMW, and I'm telling the rest of the staff, we got to get rid of 30% of the staff. There are so many thoughts that are going through their mind. If we can help them get over that with this is, if you've got 3 kids, the Escalade is amazing because it will park itself. You just put it in reverse in your underground parking of your condominium, and moving 3 kids and 2 dogs, the Escalade is the only thing to own and drive. And the spouse, someone's saying, I am not driving that great big truck. How are we going to fit it in our underground parking? Let me show you.
I think they need a real estate agent if they got 3 kids, 2 dogs, and they're living in a condo.
They definitely do. That kind of lifestyle that it can conjure up, the backup, trailer backup with the Ford F-150, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe other manufacturers haven't copied that. It is incredible. But if you don't tow a trailer, you're never going to know. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, it would be nice to get an RV. It'd be nice to get a boat. That is a crucial element of it. As we move forward to electrification, like, holy smokes. I remember working with Ford and convincing rural dealers in Eastern Canada, you guys have to move forward. You got to get a charge station. You've got to certify a technician. You've got to carry these electric cars. And like, no one's going to want an electric car in Bracebridge. Really? What about the nurse? And this will resonate with you, Skinny. What about that healthcare worker that gets off at 1 a.m?
Yeah.
And it's January 15th. And it's Muskoka. Anybody knows Muskoka? They get snow and it's freezing cold. And she drives home to no garage. Maybe it's one of those Canadian Tire pop-up tents. Drives it in and plugs the car in. Gets up in the morning, unplugs it, drives straight to the hospital. Again, that's their fueling station. Not get off at 1 o'clock in the morning, look at the gas gauge and the light's on.
Yeah.
What do I do? Can I even make it out to the highway station? And then I got to drive all the way up to Huntsville or Baysville or Peterborough, or like, how can you say the electric car is not a good idea anywhere? It's amazing. And then, of course, as we move forward into hydrogen, it'll even be more exciting. You know, we can talk about the green version of it. We can talk about the fact it's still an internal combustion engine. It's still relatively workable, doable, learnable. Technicians will still be able to work it. There's so much that when we do like that gal did at the BMW Mini Store on the Countryman, and we create the story and the lifestyle that goes with it, oh my gosh, it can't be a better, more fun thing to sell.
I would suggest, here's a really good tip. If you're a salesperson that's looking to kind of break their way into doing videos, don't shoot the easy fish in the barrel first. Don't start doing new cars. Go do used vehicles. The reason why I suggest that is, picture yourself trying to buy that used car. Was it smoked in? Did they have dogs? Is there cuts in the leather or the fabric? And that will get you using some more sensory to describe it to the viewers, so that way they can get a better feel for what they're looking at, because it's not just looks, right?
Yeah.
Hopping in a new car, like, what does everybody love about new cars in the showroom? That new car smell. But if you don't tell them that, you can't get that emotion from them, because a lot of people, that's the number one thing that they love the most, is that they get in that new car smell. And if you can get that emotion out of them, like you say, you take them from that logical state to the completely just emotional state of, oh, I can't wait till I get to smell that.
Even better than that, when you're up against the competitors in the same vein, say for instance, we're shopping a CRV versus a RAV4, and they're in your CRV showroom, and you say, well, the thing that you won't like about the RAV4 is that it's gutless and it rides rough and the engine's noisy. And the customer's like, okay, let me go over and look at the RAV4. Is there anything I can do to help you make the decision on the CRV right now before you have to go to? No, there's nothing you can do, Bill. I promised myself, my dad's forcing me to go look at the Toyota first before I make the decision. I planted the seed. Don't forget, engine's noisy, rides rough, and I can't remember it's gutless. Well, as soon as the customer gets in that car, they drive away, they can be like, wow, it's gutless. It rides rough because it's brand spanking new, and the engine's noisy, and probably because it's a 4-cylinder. Whatever the case is, that's what the customer will feel. That's what they'll hear. It's absolutely priceless. All about communication. all about having these tactics in your toolbox that when the tactics are perfectly aligned, and this is what we teach and train, now you've got a strategy. It's exactly what you and Jason do so well with video and social media and all of it. It's like I don't know how many of your podcasts and Jason's little videos, and I don't know what he's talking about. And I watched it a couple times and go, I don't know how that's relevant, but it was really good. I got a couple of things out of that. And I type in, hey, great show. That was amazing. That's what it's all about. It's the strategy. When you put all of them together, you get a feel for, this social media thing isn't about, hey, I'm Bill Harvey, I've got a sales program and you should buy it. That's commission breath. That's me puking my sales skills out. Nobody wants to hear that. But when I say, hey, look, the customers transcended the buying process. When they're sitting in front of you, they want it unquestionably because they thought about it, talked about it, researched the marketplace. Now you got to create that emotion. Get them from here, get them to here where they got to have it. Their life's not complete without it. And somebody goes, wow, yeah. They don't know how to do it, but they get the message. Rather than me saying, hey, I got an 8-week program. I'll teach you how to that. Again, that's commission breath. We don't want to do that.
I've been waiting for an opportunity to say this because the thing I hate the most, and I call it bad language, right? Is that commission language you're talking about. I saw something yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, sorry. This was a couple days ago. This is why I'm remembering that I was angered. I wanted to call the dealer and be like, are you guys crazy? They had a Miata. Okay, it was a new car, new Mazda Miata. It was probably a year old. It was like their model that's kind of still new, but shouldn't be there. And they decided they were going to do a video on it, which great way to move inventory. The title of the video was, "We Need This Car Gone." And I was furious.
No doubt.
Because here you've got the right idea. You've got this vehicle that you need to sell. But you don't need to tell people that. You can just highlight the Miata for what it is. It is June, for crying out loud. I could understand that if you were doing that video in December going, yeah, we need to move this. No. This is June. This is when people want to buy this car. And that was the title. And I was just furious for no good reason, and the fact that I felt for them because the idea was there, but the execution was wrong. And that's where they need training, right? And this is what it all comes down to is training really prevents poor performance because it allows you to plan, make that process, build that idea, and then execute it. I don't go out to a store with my cameras, grab the first car I see, and start just trying to do something. I plan this stuff out days in advance. So when I show up, I can execute on my idea, not fumble through it, and then go through an hour of footage going, I didn't even talk about the points I want to talk about, right? 100%. And that's just a reference to video, but that's sales. That's showbiz, baby. You got to show up ready to do what you got to do, but you got to have the processes in place and the plan in place. Otherwise, you're just really walking through it blind going, I hope this works.
Well, I know our audience is going to get it, so I'm going to say it. And it's probably the most difficult thing that you and I do, that we do so much scripted, and Jason would agree, and so many of the other actors and directors I've worked with, that when you do those professional presentations, they're amazing. They're actually pretty easy to do, especially with a teleprompter. When we do this is really off the cuff. And we don't want to be going, well, oh my gosh, that would be painful to watch. I'd be off. I'd be gone. History, click out of it. And I think anybody else would. It's exactly what you're talking about, Skinny. Plan it. Take the time. Write a script. It takes 2 seconds. Oh, you can't see my workbook there because of the background. But the point is, planning assures success. Yeah. And we have a monthly salesperson's planner. I call it Salesperson Unlimited. And it asks them to do a goal setting activity before every single month opens up. But that's based on a 90-day statistical average of what their performance has already been. And of course, that's 90 days. So it's always revolving, Because the greatest challenge that I saw as salespeople was, okay, when I got to do a goal setting activity, I don't know what to put down. Like, I want to do better. Well, that's not a goal. That's a ridiculous statement. When we give them the background, which is the planning that you and I do in the background. Hey, let's tabulate your last 90 days of everything. Phone calls, walk-ins, showroom, presentations, demonstrations, repeats, referrals. All of a sudden it makes sense for them, and break out 30 car month into, this is how many I'll get from repeat, this is how many I'll get from referral, this is how many I'll get from walk around, this is how many I'll get from virtual, this is how many I'll get from network. Wow, it just makes sense. That's scripted and planning. And really, it makes it super easy. What you and I are doing off the cuff like this is where it's really hard. And that's why I think it's so important that we set the stage, as Jason says so frequently, let me set the room. This is off the cuff. The suggestions and hints and tips and tactics that we're bantering is right off the top. It's fun. I love it. It's great.
But it comes from an area of passion, right? If you and I weren't passionate about automotive or training or giving advice to people or anything like that, this would just be, like you say, full of ums and ahs and dulls and, very muted, monotone, boring, it wouldn't be existent. But we have the passion for it. And I think that your attitude and your passion can really dictate any efforts moving forward. I'll go out on a limb and say you don't necessarily have to be passionate about sales to be good at it, but you have to have the right attitude. I don't need to be at a store being like, oh, I'm all about sales. I'm all about Mazda. This is my life. I live and breathe it and da da da. No. If you have the right attitude, you can train. If you have passion, you can train. You can do with one or the other, or both is fantastic. But I don't necessarily think you have to be passionate about what you do to be successful, but you have to have the right attitude. And this is, like you say, we can banter back and forth about this for 3 hours, I'm sure. But if you lack those, it becomes a challenge. And that's when you maybe need to decide if this is the right business for you. Because if you don't have the right attitude, or if you're not passionate about it, there's no amount of training that will probably make you successful.
Absolutely. 100%. It's an attitude of gratitude. It's a belief in serving as opposed to closing. And when you put those two together, and that's exactly what we teach in the customer focus approach to the entire sales process, but specifically closing and negotiating, now all of a sudden you're not hammering people into a deal and browbeating them until they give up and say yes. You're just asking really straightforward, simple questions that are aligned and have a focus that the customer doesn't know what your focus is, but gets them to that point where they go, this just makes sense, doesn't it? And they go, I think I'll take it. Oh, congratulations. Great. Let me go and make sure the business manager is available. We'll finalize this all right now for when do you want it? And in a pinch, I can have it ready this afternoon. Be ideally tomorrow would be better. And 2 days from now would be absolutely perfect. But you tee that up with the business manager. Let me go and see if he's available. And don't wait for them to answer, and sit there and look at them.
Yeah. Oh, and that's when the salesperson gets up, and when they closed the deal just by how they're walking, right? They got that little strut on, and that was an easy deal. They didn't grind out. You can always tell the difference between a good, solid sale where customer, salesperson, everybody's jiving, versus a guy who has literally just been negotiating his way through this deal for the last 45 minutes. And you don't have to be, you could walk into the showroom and see a guy just walking away. He may have a car deal, but he's not happy about it because he just worked his butt off for it. Whereas you walk through and you see a guy just, smiling as he walks past the offices. That guy just got a car deal and it was smooth and the customer's happy and they're happy. Yeah. Is it ever a different state of mind when you got to grind out versus just presenting that value and giving the customer information enough they go, yeah, I think we'd like it.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of them are walking around really feeling good about themselves because there's two components to that sale, the yes and the gross.
Yeah.
Right now we got a lot of yeses and we got a lot of grosses, a lot of people walking around really enjoying it. And that's that may change. I don't want to be the devil's advocate or settle anybody's dreams and hopes down. But as scarcity diminishes and our supply and demand lines get more in check and urgency isn't as high as it is right now, that's where building the value and making sure that you've got that attitude of serving, helping others achieve maximum potential. I don't call myself a sales trainer. I help others achieve their maximum potential. That's really what I want to do with all of my programs. There's a ton of strategy, which is umpteen levels of tactics that are perfectly aligned that we have to teach, but it's help everybody achieve that maximum potential. And not all of them get it. And those are the ones that probably don't have the attitude of serving, and they're working from a deficit position. They have to do this. They have to make the money. They're in desperation mode. And of course, Skinny, you know what it's like. You've been on the showroom floor with me too. Customer can smell our commission breath and our desperation, and they run the other way. And when you got that attitude of gratitude and just serving, how can I help you buy this car? Life's a lot easier.
Oh, is it ever, man? Bill, I want to thank you, bud. You have been such an entertaining guest, and I think there's a lot of great information that our listeners have got from this. It's jam-packed, this episode. I will say that we've covered a lot, and I want to thank you for your time so much. I'm going to give you a minute or two here just to plug away at your socials, where people can find you, and how they can reach out.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share with everybody all my social media content. So on LinkedIn, you will find me at Dynamix International. That's Dynamix International / Bill Harvey. You'll find the same on Facebook, Dynamix International, Bill Harvey. On Instagram, I am Bill1, the numeral 1, Bill, the numeral 1, Harvey. And on Twitter, you'll find me at Bill Inspires.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is Bill Harvey, if I just got that. Thank you so much, Bill. Listen, I hope you have a great day. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope everybody stays safe, happy selling. And until next time, take care, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy Mob podcast. Don't want to miss new content? Visit us at strategymob.com to view our huge library of content and to sign up to be a mobster and stay in the know. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.